Mosley, and we welcome Bob Lilly to the show now. And Bob, happy birthday to you. That is very exciting. It's just, boy, you're still doing great. And I think up in the Metroplex right now as we talk. But I hope you're having a nice birthday. I think you've been celebrated now for a few days, and y'all had a big family dinner last night, I think I was hearing about. But hope you're having a very happy birthday.
Matt, it's been a wonderful birthday. And I thank the Lord that I am cognizant, and I can really enjoy it, and I still have all my faculties, and I can still walk a lot, and I still can eat a lot. so everything is good at 85.
What's Bob Lilly's birthday dinner? What's the meal you would choose for your birthday? Do you have a go-to restaurant in the Metroplex, or does Ann does y'all have put a big spread together? One of your how does it work out?
Well, we have two of our children have their birthdays within about a week of mine. So we've got they have. One of them is an outdoor chef, and he loves to cook steak, and he loves to cook all kinds of things on his grill. And the other loves to go down, and they live in near Highland Park there, and they love to go down to this restaurant and get some specialties, and then they throw in some themselves that they made. And last night we went there, and we had another one 2-3 days ago at my daughter's house and her husband. So anyway, I think really I like pretty much everything. I like a good steak, prime rib. I like chicken, stuff. And we eat a lot of vegetables, and they all have access or can make wonderful cakes, which is very tempting, but I don't eat a whole lot of cake, but I love it.
Well, now, do you have your gold jacket packed? I think you're headed toward Canton, Ohio, maybe by way of Cleveland. Do you still have a lot of fun going back to the big ceremony and being there and seeing so many of your friends and then all the greats? Is that, Bob, do you try to make that an annual pilgrimage?
We have pretty well, we might have missed a couple of them, but that's been a long time, 1980, and I don't think we've missed one, two, or three. And generally, if we did, it was for someone in the family's illness or funeral or something like that. But yeah, I think it was such a great honor, and it was the epitome of my football game. I mean, I didn't expect to go in the Hall of Fame. Everybody said, "You're probably going in the Hall of Fame." I said, "Well, all my heroes were already there. I mean, like Gino Marchetti and some of those guys." And anyway, I was thinking, they probably won't pick me, but I came from a little town of Throckmorton, and I went to TCU, which wasn't a big school, and then the Cowboys started, and I had some good years. In fact, I had a lot of good years, but I didn't look at it that way. I always thought that I could be better, and so anyway, sure enough, they called me and they said, told me that I had been selected to the Hall of Fame, and back in those days they didn't generally have but about 4 inductees, and so my class was Deacon Jones, Herb Adderley, Jim Otto, and Bob Lilly, and I met, of course, many of my heroes from the past, and since I met after that, or even during that, I met quite a few players that I had played against, some of them directly against, and some of them running backs, and some of them quarterbacks, and I became friends with most of them. I mean, we were enemies at one time, and now we're friends. And so I always look forward to it. It's really we have enough time. I mean, we're going somewhere all the time, but everywhere we go, after about an hour, we all have time to go visit and talk about old times, and we eat together, and they have a lot of common parties for like mayor's dinner and various things that they have. And then they have a gold jacket night, which is a banquet, but it's when the inductees this year will get their jackets. And so we will all dress up pretty nicely with our yellow jacket on. And anyway, it's just, Canton is really, really a nice, small. It's not a city. It's a small city, but it's not real big. It's real pretty. Got a river going through it, and it's just, and a lot of farmland that's real good. And there's some Amish communities around it that we go see, and we eat at the rest. Talk about eating. That's some pretty good eating there. Anyway, it's a nice place to go, and we've driven it twice. So, and we really enjoyed that too. But I just like to see my old buddies, and I know a lot of them are gone now. In fact, I think I'm the only one left out of my class, which kind of makes me sad. But life is life, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you keep going. People want to know your secret. 85, and you're still going strong. I guess it's clean living for the most part, and but it's awesome how strong you are, and you and Ann have done such a great job. Is that almost surreal when you get? I mean, you probably in your mind still see yourself as a young man. I think we all do to a certain extent, and then but I would imagine you take great pride in being able to do what you do at your age. How much of your old teammates, your Cowboys teammates, do you keep up with and check in? Boy, y'all are a very close bunch, and several of you, I think, as I recall, lived in Lake Highlands near the practice facility, the old Cowboys practice facility. That's a tight fraternity. Is it your wives who mostly keep in touch, or do you reach out to your buddies quite a bit?
Well, we have until the last 2 or 3 years, and it's like the biggest problem that we've had, I think, a lot of players have passed away.
Yeah,
but several of them have dementia, and so they just don't really want to go out, and so it's like we get together from time to time, and and I don't mean they have dementia where they can't talk and understand, but they don't drive anymore, and their wives do. And we've lost a lot of my teammates, and that's pretty sad too.
Yeah.
But
Bobby,
anyway, it's still fun, and this year we will have a couple of additions. They were added on last year, I think. It was Drew and I got dementia
Chuck,
right now.
Yeah, Chuck and Chuck. I mean,
Chuck. Chuck's alive. He's still alive, but he's got dementia real bad.
Yeah.
Cliff Harris got in. I think Cliff got in maybe a year before last. I don't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so, but Cliff and Drew will be there, and Roger will be there, and of course Randy White and I have become real good friends, and Randy's he's going to go and take his son this year, and I've done that too. That was real nice, and the kids loved it. And anyway, it's the people are very, very nice. The townspeople volunteer everything. They pick you up at the airports. They take you to the hotel. They go out of their way, and they don't take they don't want tips. They enjoy doing it, and so wherever we go, there's a pretty good sized crowd, and we generally most of the guys are nice enough that they will take 20 or 30 minutes and go over and sign autographs for the people that are standing on the other side of the fence. And so I think it works out well. Then they have the parade, and the new ones are all there, and the newer ones and the older ones are in the back or we're not there, one or the other. But it's like they want to see, the new players and the ones that have been inducted in the last 2 or 3 years.
Well, Bob it was so great to talk. Bob Lilly on the Matt Mosley Show. What about going back to even your high school days? You played basketball, you played football, everything. Think back to when you decided to go to TCU. Was that, how many opportunities did you have? You had moved for your senior year out of state in high school, and then early on with the Cowboys, I remember you played some defensive end, but when you decided to go to TCU, what other opportunities do you remember having? Because you were a decorated player, but like you said, you probably, when you were at Throckmorton, you didn't know exactly, what your future held. What other schools did you think about at the time?
Well, when we moved, we went to Pendleton, Oregon.
Yeah.
And that was a long ways, but we were in the middle of a 7-year drought. And my dad was a custom farmer, and we had our way of making a living, me helping him, was we had a bulldozer. We dozed mesquite trees. We built pads where the oil rigs would drill for oil. We had combines, and we had tractors and combines and a hay baler, and so I got to do all that. I didn't doze trees or build ponds, but I did cut wheat. I did mow hay and rake it and bale it and haul it. I think hauling hay for about 8 years was what made me pretty wiry. I didn't ever lift weights per se, like, a lot of people build up their muscles and they really scare you when you look at them. But I never did seem to have a whole lot of problem with them when I was playing against them. But anyway, we went up. It got pretty bad. The only thing left in Throckmorton at the time that we could make a living at was Dad was building more roads, not highways, dirt roads with gravel on them to go to where they were going to drill an oil well. He built the pad up. He dug the little pond where they had all the excess fluid go into. And then about that time, Arabs announced $2 a barrel oil, and that ended the drilling, and that ended us. And they started calling relatives all over. And so we had some relatives, and he had a sister, and mother had a couple of cousins up near Pendleton. And so anyway, mother's first cousin, George Redwine, that was her maiden name, got Dad a job. And so Dad built a trailer. We sold our house, fortunately, and we put what little we could of our furniture in this trailer, and we pulled it up there with the 63 V8 Studebaker. And anyway, we got up there, and I had a good. The people were friendly. The people on the eastern side of Washington and Oregon are farmers and ranchers, and very similar to the people who are farmers and ranchers in Texas or Oklahoma or anywhere else. They're all very nice people, all very welcoming and cordial and nice. And I made friends really quickly, and they all teased me about my Texas brogue, which was pretty bad back then. And anyway, I had a good guy. I made All-State basketball, and it might have been second team All-State, but I made All-State first team in football. I went to the All-Star game in football, and so I visited Oregon State, Washington. I got invitation to go to Washington State and Idaho. I don't remember which school it was in Idaho. And then Bear Bryant called, but we didn't have a phone, so he called the coach. And Coach Requa gave me his number, and I was scared to call him back. We had a guy from Throckmorton that went to A&M early in Bear Bryant's career at A&M, and Don Sims from Throckmorton went to A&M, and they took him out to Junction and nearly killed him. And so he decided he would go to a different school. And I never forgot that. In fact, a whole lot of them quit. I think he ended up with 18 players that went back to the Junction Boys. That's what they were called.
Yeah.
So but during my growing up years, we had my dad's hero was Sammy Ball, and during his adult years, he watched TCU every time they played at home during Sammy Ball's years, and then he continued to go down there from time to time during football season, and then he started taking me when I was about 8. And so that's the only college I had actually ever gone to a football game, and I'd still been going to TCU games when I was a junior. And I started getting feelers right after my junior year to some smaller schools. And one of them was Sammy Ball at Hardin-Simmons University in Abilene. Abilene. And anyway, he wrote me a letter. He just said, we've been scouting one of your teammates, Max Hibbets, and he said we're prepared to. Anyway, he said we've been watching you, and he said we're prepared to offer you a scholarship if you have a good year your senior year, which was the next year. And he said, but you do have to have a B average. And I thought, I better start studying a little harder. That's the best thing anybody ever told me. But that was my dad's hero. But he played at TCU, and that's where Dad watched him. He was from not too far from Throckmorton, where I grew up. So anyway, I did not. We had kinfolks, like I say, up in Washington State and some in Oregon, but my heart was still in Texas, and I was offered scholarships to several schools up there, but I turned down some interesting offers. But I came to TCU, and I've never regretted it. I really enjoyed being at TCU, and it was close enough to home. I mean, I didn't have a car the first 2 years I was at TCU, but my grandmother was still out there. Mother and Dad came back right after my freshman year. And so anyway, everything kind of got back to normal. And I would come home. I'd bring the guys home in the off season. We'd go fishing, hunting out there, and then all of a sudden, it was my senior year at TCU. I mean, I went to TCU. I signed a letter. I got a 1-cent postcard from them because we didn't have a phone. So Coach White Allie White sent me a 1-cent postcard. Said, "Dear Bob," he said, "we're prepared to offer you a full scholarship, room and board, your books, and $10 a month laundry check, plus all the food you can eat." And he said, so anyway, I called there. He left his number on the card. It was just a postcard. So I called him from my coach's office and said, I'll be there. So anyway, I came down. I came home about a month prior to, and went down there to TCU and visited, and they were very nice. And they were that way the whole time I was there. And we went to a couple of bowl games. Went to Cotton Bowl my sophomore year, and I was a starter then. And my junior year, we went to the Bluebonnet Bowl, and I was a starter. Kind of interesting in that game, Don Floyd was an All-American from TCU, and my junior year. And on the other, we played Clemson in the first Bluebonnet Bowl. They had, I can't remember his name right now, but they had a tackle named, anyway, he was a All-American also that year. And I ended up being the defensive player of the game. And I said,
"Oh, wow.
How did that happen? I don't understand that."
Well, that was Bob Lilly on the Matt Mosley Show, ESPN Central Texas. And, boy, it's great to visit with you. Boy, at some point, your rookie season, one of the things you got after some award, you end up getting this camera. It was a really, and was probably from like the Kodak company, or but one of the big camera companies, and it really changed your life because you then went on to become a world-renowned photographer, and even started that during your playing days. I'm curious, did you what was that first camera? Was that a 35 millimeter? And do you still find yourself out there, wherever you are and going on vacation, taking some photographs and all of that, because you became a unbelievable landscape photographer and people paid big money for your photographs?
Well, actually, that was my senior year, and I made All-American. I made consensus All-American.
Uh-huh.
And I went to Kodak was the sponsor of one of them, and that was the one that we were on Ed Sullivan's show. And back then, you played both ways, so there was never more than 12. Sometimes if the quarterback, the quarterback could come out and they could put another player. In other words, they could substitute when the defense was out there. You could substitute, or you could substitute the quarterback. That was it. And unless you changed your whole platoon at half. So anyway, that was my senior year, and so Kodak gave there were 13 of us, I think, or 12. They gave us a Motormatic Kodak that was, I think it was made in Germany, because it had a retina lens, which were made in Germany at the time. And it had a motor, but it was a wind-up motor. It was like a wheel on the bottom of it. It was about an inch and a half in diameter, and you wound it up like you would a clock. And then it would click, 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 click. And anyway, it was pretty modern for that particular era. So that's what I started with. Plus, they gave us 100 rolls of color film and 100 rolls of black and white and mailers. So it didn't cost us a dime to send it up there. And they, within a week, we got it back. We got the photos back and the negatives all developed and put in sleeves and in a packet. And so anyway, that's how I started. So then I took that camera. Started taking pictures of my teammates as well, my rookie year, and I was obviously taking pictures of family and so forth. And I had a dark room my first year in pro ball. It wasn't a dark room; it was a bathroom in the apartment that another fellow and I lived in during the football season. And I went down and got half of a plywood and put it over the bathtub, over half of it, and then I got a washer. They made a washer back then that was ground, and it was beveled. You put the hose. It had a rubber thing on it. You stuck it on the spout from the bathtub, and the water circulated and came out at the bottom. And so that's how you dried them. And then I put a little clothesline up there and I drilled holes in clothespins and threaded the wire through there and hooked the wire up to each end of the shower area or the bathtub area. And then I could hang my pictures up there to dry. I just clipped the corner of it. So that's how I started. And then I got more and more sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
And now, of course, it's digital, which makes it very easy. And I still do take my camera and I still take pictures, but my buddies that I used to go with all the time, they're gone. And
Yeah.
so it's not quite as exciting. We used to go hike up the mountains and the canyons in Arizona, and Nevada, and Utah, and all over, and West Texas, go out to Big Bend, and all over. And I still love it, but I know that I'm not doing as much as I used to because I just going by myself at this point in life, at this age, does not feel attractive.
Well, Bob, I tell you, it's fun catching up with you. Sam Blair was a friend of mine. He wrote one of those books with you, and had a lot of your photographs, I think, featured. Some of those things I've seen over the years are just amazing. Yeah. And you've done some great work, and you were out there in New Mexico living for years. Well, I tell you, last thing, Bob, do you have hope for these this new version of the Cowboys? I'm going out there to training camp to see them here in about a week and a half. Do you think they could possibly turn the corner? It's been since the 1995 season since they've even been to an NFC title game. You all used to go to the NFC title game almost every year. Even after you retired, they kept going. And it's been a long, long period of time. Do you have any hope for these Cowboys?
Well, I always have hope for them. I don't know. I've met several of them, but I don't really know them personally. And I think the coach is a pretty good coach. He did well at Green Bay.
Yep.
And I don't know. There have been key injuries, I think, in the last few years that have really kind of stunted them. When they were starting to get better and better and better, then they would get a key player hurt, like a middle linebacker or running back or quarterback in some cases. And I've been watching a little bit of, they're out in California right now, and they're suited up, but they're not hitting. They don't hit the tackle and do all that like we used to.
That's right.
But nobody else does either. But anyway, I have hopes for them. Yeah, I thought last year's team could have really done well. It just didn't seem like – it seemed like every time they got going, key player got hurt. And, their center got hurt, their middle linebacker got hurt, the right guard got hurt. It was just one key player. And we had, the 77 he's been hurt quite a bit the last few years, and I don't know how he even played. But anyway, Smith, great tackle, but he's banged up, and so I think it all depends on their offensive line. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think if they develop a good offensive line this year, I think they're going to do well.
Listen, we appreciate the time. Happy birthday, 85th birthday. Hard to believe for Mr. Cowboy, and all of Central Texas loves hearing from you. You spent time in Waco. You all spent time down there in the Georgetown area for a lot of years. So you have great friends and still have great friends. And so they're all listening today in Central Texas and are all sending you birthday wishes. Bob, thank you for doing this.
You bet, Matt. And I've enjoyed visiting with you. It's always fun to trigger my memory back in the good old days, In the good old days. 85 is not bad. I drive, and I've been blessed, really. My eyesight's pretty good. In fact, it's good. I've had that cataract replaced, lens. But anyway, I don't know of anybody my age that hadn't. It's been nice. It's been very nice talking to you, and you pried into some of the areas that I hadn't thought about in a while, and I'm thinking about them right now. So thank you.
Well, safe travels as you head toward Canton. Y'all have a great time, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks, Bob.
You bet, man. Thank you.
There he goes, Bob Lilly, the legend.
We are Rogue Media Sports.